play to win the game.
Somebody wins, somebody loses.
This is why you hired me.
Welcome, Karma Nation. Week 2 is in the book.
Woo!
Some of the key headlines from this week is Dolphins are doing Dolphins things once again. Drew Brees looks like he's either broken his thumb or dislocated his thumb, something along those lines. Knocked him out of the game, didn't return. It was mostly all Teddy Bridgewater. That was not a good thing as they lost by 20 to the Rams. And then lastly, vintage Kirk Cousins this week. And also vintage Bengals. As the Bungles works. Bungles lose by 24. And the Vikings might as well have lost by 24. Actually, they were losing 21-0. Made a little bit of a comeback. Packers had some mistakes. But, Vikings, red zone, first and goal, from the 8. Cousins pick in the corner of the end zone.
Brutal.
It's brutal.
Brutal.
So let's dive into kind of assess the performance for the week. So I'll jump into our Circa pick. So if you recall, last week we went 4-0-1. We're actually in the top 17, so excited about that. Heading into this week, we had Lions +2, Bills -1, Seahawks +4. And let me pause there because you're probably thinking we're super sharp, but we just fucking crushed it. But then allow me to continue. Bears -2.5.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts so bad.
Lost that one by the half game. And then our final 5th pick is tomorrow night, going deeply contrarian, taking Jets +6.5. This was before CJ Mosley was announced out, which is kind of their defensive captain, defensive signal caller. So definitely concerned about that. But so 3-1 heading into tomorrow night. So we're pretty optimistic, feeling all right.
Yeah,
I would say.
Even if we can go 3-2.
Losing the Bears, was covering basically the whole game. They collapsed in the final. It was 13-6 with 2.5 minutes left. And the Broncos could not move the ball all game. And then the Bears just kept letting them pick up chunk after chunk after chunk after chunk all the way down. Got the touchdown, went for 2, actually took a 1-point lead. And then the Bears moved the ball down the field, get a kind of a favorable penalty, then also get a favorable timeout at the end, saving it with 1 second left. And then Eddie Pinheiro, the Florida Gator, go Gators, kicks a 50-plus yarder for the win, and they win by 2.
Man.
So not good for our spread. The top 5 consensus picks for Circa was Cowboys -5, that's a win. Steelers -4, loss.
Squares.
Bengals -1.5, loss. Vikings +3, loss. Chiefs -6.5. And that's one that I wish we would have taken a little bit closer look at. So Circa top 5 actually goes 2-3. So we gain alpha this week, even irregardless of what happens tomorrow. So that's good. So how do we do in SuperContest, Zach?
All right, SuperContest. Well, last week, as you probably know, we went 4-1. So we started off strong, much stronger than last year, where we were 2-1 the first week. However, this week, a little disappointed. We went 2-3. We avoided some key games, but we also picked some games that really bit us in the tushy, so to speak. We did Titans -3. Now, if we had one that we could take back, I think that would be the one. There never really was a good reason for us to choose Titans. I think we got a little too... I don't know what it is, because the Colts, we really liked week 1, and they should have won even straight up versus the Chargers on the road. And the Colts,
we had Colts +6.
Colts +6, and the Colts have owned the Titans as of late. You're getting 3 points in a division game. If you're gonna choose a side, you might as well go with the Colts. Like, what advantage are you getting with Mariota versus, a very capable Colts team, as we've now seen 2 weeks in a row, and we actually have been high on them regardless of Andrew Luck's retirement.
And the other thing is we thought we were being a little clever taking Titans -3. We thought we were going to fly under the radar. This basically we had our 4 picks locked in. Titans was our 5th pick that we kind of slid in there. We were kind of going back and forth, maybe going to do Raiders, thinking about Bengals. So it was good. We ultimately didn't do that, but it was basically going to be like Cardinals or it was probably going to be it was Cardinals or Titans probably. Or Lions. It was going to be Cardinals, Titans, or Lions. And we slide Titans in there. It ultimately turned out that Titans is a super popular pick.
Yeah, number 7.
And that
21%.
And it was the 6th most popular pick in Circa.
Yeah, actually, ironically, I think to start the week, our top 5 considerations, maybe top 5 out of top 6, ended up being the top 5 SuperContest picks, which goes to show it was a very square, sharp week for us and for our picks. I think we actually started to pull ourselves off and flip. Like, we were on the Steelers to start the week, and as the week progressed, we were like, hold on a second. Is there any fundamental truth grounded in square sharps assuming that the Steelers are just going to flip a switch and bounce back after laying an egg against the one team that they always get up for? Everyone wants to say, Belichick owns Tomlin. Well, he does. But I've never seen the Steelers get whooped 30 points against the Patriots. And granted, this Patriots team is really good. But something's not right in Pittsburgh, so to speak. And once you started putting the piece together, we laid off that, and we ended up putting Seattle in our Circa because we had the night to kind of digest the kind of new insight and, had enough conviction to put, Seattle in straight up. So, and they won straight up, so...
I was hoping that we would have put Seahawks now, in SuperContest, obviously, in retrospect. But one of the reasons also that we put the Seahawks into Circa was in both Circa and SuperContest, the line was 4. Mm-hmm. Now, in reality, in the true market, the line never got to 4.
Yeah, maybe.
And that was one of the main. That was one of the reasons why we put in Seahawks was because it was an artificial line that never existed. I mean, basically, the Steelers were at that 3.5 line pretty much all week, and the juice was kind of just moving up and down, but it never actually even got to 4. And I think I thought that spoke volumes.
Yeah, and I want to give the viewers real quick a little tidbit. Is I've noticed this a lot this season, explicitly so that even on my Twitter, I'm now 6-0 with Dave Essler on fading public plays or square sharp plays that have no logic as to why people are so freaking confident in them. Steelers was that play this week. Last week it was Bucks and Raiders, Bucks and Broncos. And this week it was the Steelers in that why are you best picking the Steelers? And someone else, why are you best picking the Ravens at -13? It just doesn't make any sense to make it like, oh man, of 16 games, give me that -13 as a lock for the week. Doesn't make any sense. So anytime, go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, and in the in Circa, actually, to be even more precise, Steelers was the number 1 pick across all. So 636 people picked
super square sharp.
Although on the other side, definitely Titans turned out to be actually a very square sharp play because we thought we were being sharp when in fact we were being very square sharp. We didn't even realize it.
Exactly, and that's where we made our blunder. But we did start catching it. The hard part is for us and for everyone, I think, is you have to put in your picks basically Friday night. Well, I mean, that's an entire 24 hours of time we don't have to really just kind of dig in a little deeper and go, wait a second. Have we really considered both sides fairly? Which is why I think the Circa is performing better than the SuperContest, because we're actually getting a little more time to really kind of dig in deeper.
Yeah. So wait. So did we talk about all 5 of
Yeah,
our super?
yeah, I'll touch on those real quick. So we did the Bills -1.5. That hit for us. Strong play. Cowboys -5. Though it was popular, though we knew it was square, it just Cowboys have looked very strong. Redskins we thought would falter in the second half. We did the Raiders +7. That hurt.
Yikes.
Yeah, going against the Chiefs. Not sure
Stupid.
why. Yeah, basically stupid. Try to get too cute, as we like to say. And then we did the Vikings +3. The dreaded Kirk Cousins on the road. Never trust that guy. He cannot come through in the clutch. He only disappoints. If the situations
Well, we keep picking him.
we do, we don't learn. But hopefully, moving forward, we will. Dalvin Cook actually salvaged this game for the Vikings when they were down 21-0.
Big time.
I mean,
Indeed.
he's Todd Gurley 2.0, I would say, for this season. So, yeah, so that wraps up our Super Contest.
And to give us a little bit of prompts, I mean, again, the tilt is strong when Kirk Cousins screws you over in his Kirk Cousins way. That is actually very predictable. But I would say, the Vikings jump out to a 21-0 lead. And then after that,
or losing, sorry.
I mean, the Packers jumped out to a 21-0 lead. And then the Vikings, it was just all Vikings from then on out. I mean, after that, it was just Packers mistakes, Packers fumbles, Packers 4th and 1 getting stuffed. And then just the Vikings just couldn't capitalize on it to the way they should. I mean, Stephon Diggs had a terrible game. He had 2 key drops on 3rd down that would have extended the drive. He had a 3rd drop that actually that led to an interception. And then he knew he was having a bad game because then he catches this long touchdown finally. And he has such a huge emotional response that, he takes off his helmet, which, you're not allowed to do, celebrating, cussing at the Packers fans, and then gets a penalty, and then knocks the Vikings, extra point out another 15 yards, and then they miss it. And it probably didn't end up into play, but you just never know. Nonetheless, I mean, Stephon Diggs, had a terrible game, possibly just could have cost the Vikings the game in itself, even beyond Kirk Cousins' terrible mistakes.
And in a division game, I mean, if you're being stupid, man, I mean, you could cost your team a division, a chance at the playoffs, a chance at a Super Bowl. I mean, this is why, I don't feel bad for certain teams and coaches, because Bill Belichick teams never do this, right? Coaches like Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton, I don't feel bad for you when you get sucked out because you got your teams aren't under control all the time. So, let's recap the week real quick so we can get to next week's lines. We haven't looked at the lines yet. At least I haven't. Brett's going to present them. We're going to get our first reaction on those lines because, as you saw last week, our first impression of the Thursday night game, Bucks +7. We lost our mind because we assumed, it's got to be, Panthers -3? The fact that it was 7, we were immediately just awestruck with how ridiculous that line was. And then also I was definitely in the same boat in regards to Arizona Cardinals being -13, which implied that they were in fact worse than the Dolphins compared to the opening week line. Now, obviously...
Yeah, and Cards was hanging out there all week for us. We kept going back and forth to put it in the Super Contest, put it into Circa. We also just ended up kind of just being a little bit too wimpy and just couldn't pull the trigger on the big underdog. But yeah, just to hear these first reactions kind of demonstrates where we're seeing just humongous value. And we did put it in the aggressive portfolio, which actually just real quick performance update on the portfolios. Basically kind of in conjunction with our Super Contest and Circa Picks, because again, the portfolio picks are going to be a blend of kind of the picks that we have in Super Contest and Circa. And so kind of in line with that, performance was relatively flat across all portfolios. It's going to be a little bit positive in core, going to be a little bit positive and aggressive. So, we manage the risk. we had an average week, and so we're going to have slightly positive returns. So we're happy about that. Conservative's going to be down about 1%, mostly based on Texans. We had a teaser, Texans at -1.5. Texans covered by one, or won the game by one. So that was like a 2% swing. So instead of being up 1%, we're actually down 1%. But again, basically flat to up in core, flat to up in aggressive. And so we'll look on to week 2 and look to get
okay. And let's try to run through these quick breaks. I know we've already touched on a lot of these games, but I'll just kind of lay them out to you and tell me what your first thoughts, because I didn't get a chance to actually watch any of these games. I'm going to recap them later. But actually, this helps us because when we review next week's lines, I'm not so biased as to what happened today to consider what these teams actually are versus, an on-tilt impression of Kirk Cousins because he sucks at Green Bay. So, let's start at the top. Patriots, Dolphins, we don't think we need to talk much about this. Go ahead.
No, yeah, and I think that, and too, just as a caveat, I spend a lot of my time like watching all the games at once, so I'm not watching any one game very narrowly, but we do kind of like watch all the games and NFL replay over the course of the week. So again, I can give my high level thoughts as well. But so Patriots, Dolphins, 43-0. I mean, that says it all. Miami played basically the same as they played last week. Really terrible offensive line, a super slow defense. A lot of the mistakes kind of compounded at the end. The Patriots were only beating them by roughly 20 for most of the game. It was, the Patriots did not try. And this is how bad the Dolphins really are. I feel like the Patriots didn't even try to crush them, and they crushed them. The Patriots had a very conservative game plan. I think through almost to halftime, maybe halfway through the second quarter, it was only 7-0. Now the Dolphins never even flirted with scoring, and they barely even flirted with moving the ball. Every time I looked up, it was Patriots ball. And so, this is just a train wreck. I feel like the Dolphins moving forward, they're unbettable because
absolutely.
Granted, the players are trying, but the front office is not putting them in a position to win.
Yeah.
So, and two, there is quit clearly in this team. So I think, Antonio Brown played a little bit. He had like 5 catches, including a touchdown. There's not much to take away from this game from the Patriots. I think it just goes to say just how bad the Dolphins are.
Yeah. Well, so let's move on to the Cardinals Ravens.
Yeah. So Ravens won this 23-17. And I would say it was pretty much always within like a score and a half the whole game. This is the Ravens, I feel like, coming down to earth. Lamar Jackson had another statistically good game like he had last week. Hey, the Ravens got to start off the season by playing possibly the worst team in NFL history, who then the next week also got crushed by 40. I wonder, really, has any team ever lost by 40 points in back-to-back weeks? Not only back-to-back weeks, but weeks 1 and 2.
At home.
Yeah, at home, too. I'm confident that's never happened. And so it just demonstrates, like, the historical futility of the Dolphins. And so Baltimore crushes them last week, and now they're being, like, anointed as one of the elite teams in the AFC. And now they get to play like the second worst team in the NFL. And hey, when you start playing the second worst team in the NFL, now you just squeak by 6 points.
What, Kyler Murray threw for over 300 yards on their defense? That speaks volumes right there. That's why we're low on the season total for Baltimore.
Yeah, well, the Cardinals moved the ball on the Ravens, and I believe that the Cardinals kicked 3 field goals inside the red zone. In fact, I read one, and I have to double check this, but I had read something along the lines that the Cardinals had kicked 3 field goals inside the 5. So, just showing like how close they were. And there's been a lot of criticism from Kingsbury that if that was the case, that that's not the right decision to be making.
Sure.
Especially when you're a big underdog, you're on the road. When you have opportunity, and you got to roll the dice and to take a big leap.
All right. How about 49ers Bengals?
Yeah, so 41-17, Niners crushed the Bengals on the road. I was super high on the Niners heading into the season. Yeah, this is when I was doing a lot of my prediction, and one of our models actually spit out 13-3 multiple times. Now I don't know if they're actually going to go 13-3, but we do have some futures bets out there for the Niners to win the West, and they're 2-0. They look good. I mean, granted, they crushed the Bengals, so there's not too much to say about that because now this goes back to looking like vintage, crappy, terrible defense Bengals. But I mean, for a team that didn't have a lot of hype around them and the expectations were pretty low, Niners back-to-back road games, 2-0, beating the Bucs and the Bengals. I'm not going to say they're going 13-3, not going to say they're necessarily going to win the West. I think the odds were favorable given what they were to say that they could. But they look like a competent team for sure.
And real quick on that, the Bengals being top 5 pick in the SuperContest and Circa speaks volumes as to how the majority of these handicappers or sports bettors or gamblers, how they pick their games. Is they take one point of emphasis where 49ers on the road in Tampa, coming back home, or staying out in Cincinnati, have to play on the road, early game again. Like Cincinnati looked pretty good versus Seattle on the road, so they must be pretty good. And then they lay it on Cincinnati as one of their best picks, which actually we considered to start the week, but we started to kind of wisen up and go, oh, wait a second. Do we really trust the Bengals as a pick'em or as a favorite versus a 49ers team that we're actually kind of high on? So
yeah, well, and it was another huge distinction, too, between the static line in the contests and what the line was doing in the free market. And in a lot of the contests, it was 1.5, -2. And yeah, it did get to that level in the free market, but it actually then started to trend lower and lower and lower, getting all the way down to pick 'em. And there was a couple other metrics that we were looking at near the end there that basically said it was like a flashing sell on the Bengals. And so even though the Bengals were one of those teams, we kind of had it in our top 5 throughout the whole week. Near the end, we saw that flashing sell from some of the metrics that we look at, and we pulled them, and luckily we did.
Yep. And on next we got Chargers Lions. Lions came through in the circuit for us.
Yeah, and I really wish that we would have had them in a super contest as well. I think one of the reasons why we only had them in one contest was because we liked the line, we liked the situation. Week 2 last year, Detroit at home versus the Patriots on Monday Night Football, they crushed them.
Yep.
And so they're in position to play competent ball. But like we said on last week's podcast, I mean, Matt Patricia, the dude makes such poor decision making that you can be in a position to win, like the Lions were last week versus the Cardinals, and the coaching's just so poor that it actually costs them the game.
Which actually, it's interesting. This actually, I wish I would have diagnosed it sooner. I think it would have had the confidence to do Lions also in the Super Contest. Is if you think about it, that's probably the best example of the butthurt play last week. Was the Lions not finishing and covering that game. So this week, it fell to only 18% picked in the Super Contest, number 11, at the +2.5 at home versus the Chargers.
Yeah, and actually, that's and again, like this is just where we're a little bit off on assessing the marketplace in the contests. Because I thought for sure, one of the things that was kind of holding me off the Lions actually a little bit was because I thought the Lions were going to be what the Titans turned out to be. Was that the Lions were going to be this square sharp pick, that they're in the right position, that this is like fundamentally, like if you're a sharp bettor, this is something that you just bet like eyes closed, and that a lot of people were going to do that the Lions were going to be a top 5, top 6 pick. And in the fact they're barely a top 20 pick. And, so we gained some alpha there in Circa for sure. And yeah, it's obviously like having the Lions in there instead of the Titans would have been much more favorable. But this was a close game. I mean, it really could have went either way. Rivers had a couple key turnovers. There was a couple key fumbles. I mean, Detroit, they only scored 13 points. They didn't play necessarily well. I think there was just more so Chargers missed field goals and turnovers that really just ended up costing them the game.
And then Vikings Packers, I think we already talked about Cousins. The one good takeaway I would say about the Vikings is, I mean, they didn't show up the first quarter and we're down 21-0. Rodgers picking them apart. But then, I mean, they didn't give up any points the rest of the game. So, I mean, I'm interested to rewatch that and see kind of how that transpired, but definitely feels like there is a positive to take away. And I mean, if we're being honest, if Cousins is just competent, if Stephon Diggs is just competent, this line gets covered. Vikings are in a position to potentially win the game. So as much as we want to poo-poo the Vikings,
that's true.
It's situational. We shouldn't have been on them on the road in this spot anyways. We were trying to get too cute, and we got burned for it. So, lesson learned.
Yeah, and I think that's where it really just goes down to, too, is I think we had better alternatives out there. I mean, you make a good point that, in all honesty, I mean, the Vikings probably, they should have covered this, if not maybe won it straight up. And I think this is the butthurt game of this week.
Mm-hmm.
So
good point. Curious to see who they're up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not even sure exactly who they play or what the line's going to be. We'll find out a little bit later on in the show, actually.
And hey, in Cook I trust. I mean, that guy, like I said, I honestly think coming into the season with the scheme they have this year and they want to run the ball, I think he's going to put up Todd Gurley type numbers and how he looks running the ball as Todd Gurley was the last couple of years when he was healthy. So that's just kind of my comparison. So moving on, how about Jags-Texans? I know I could never lay the 8.5 with Texans. Obviously, I knew the Jags would probably rebound, especially on defense. I think the assumption of this game by most people was, Gardner Minshew, he sucks, he's going on the road. But, the Jags have a capable defense, and if you watch that Chiefs game, a lot of it was blown assignments. It was kind of like, what are you guys doing? You're not that bad. Just frickin' tackle. So, I expected a somewhat of a rebound. Obviously, it wasn't comfortable laying the points on the road, but obviously it would have been a good pick had it happened. So what were your thoughts, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, the Texans' offensive line continues to struggle. Watson sacked another 4+ times. Even in spite of all the defensive injuries that the Jags had this week. And then obviously no Foles and having a rookie quarterback. And nonetheless, I mean, they play just good enough to hang in there and be competitive. And the Texans could just never play competent ball. I mean, the offensive line is just so bad, even with Tunzel, that they just couldn't move the ball, even on a Jags defense that had a bunch of injuries. So it really came down to a last play where the Jags scored a touchdown, went for 2, and Fournette got stuffed. I mean, he's literally half an inch away. It's possible he actually did break the plane a little bit, but they called it. They said that he didn't make it on the field, and the replays weren't super clear. So they just kept it as is on the field, and the Texans squeak out a 1-point victory.
God.
I mean, I was very confident that the Texans were going to win this game. And I mean, obviously it turned out to be a coin flip, so that confidence was misplaced. I didn't think that the Texans would necessarily cover, but Jags +8, +9 or whatever it was, it really wasn't something that we thought too much about in SuperContest or Circa.
Again, and it's because when there's such a big variable, it makes sense why you avoid it. But let's move on. Let's try to get through these. Bills Giants. Obviously, we're on the Bills. That played well. Interestingly, if you join us at dfskarma.com, if you sign up, you can be in our Discord. And there was a lot of chatter, a lot of talk about, hey man, my GPP and my cash games, I'm going to put Josh Allen in there. Josh Allen. And I'm thinking, wait a second. If they're loving DFS Josh Allen against this Giants defense, Josh Allen, who we're pretty low on, I mean, there's something to that. That means he's probably going to have a decent game. And if he has a decent game, they probably beat the Giants. And he had a pretty good game. So, it shows the value of joining Bet Karma and DFS Karma, just having the opportunity to kind of gauge the full marketplace, talk about players, talk about their performance, because obviously if a QB is going to perform well, that speaks volumes to the potential of covering a game or team winning straight up.
Yeah, and and Josh Allen too. I mean, he had a good game.
Yeah.
So he had a great first half. But Giants actually the first possession of the game, like last week versus the Cowboys, went right down the field 7-zip. Looking strong, even in spite of the offensive injuries that the Giants have this week. Wide receiver core completely depleted. Nonetheless, moved right down the field 7-zip. Buffalo comes right back, scores a touchdown, It's 21-7. Josh Allen looks really strong. They slow down in the third quarter, but I like what I saw in Josh Allen. They closed the game in the fourth quarter as they needed to. Devin Singletary looked strong. I saw Josh Allen make some throws that I thought that I don't think I ever seen him make last year. So, I mean, he's still rough around the edges. He bails himself out with his legs a lot of times. But they have a great defense. They're 2-0 on the road this year in the same stadium versus Jets and Giants. So I'm optimistically bullish on them. And the Giants' defense just is terrible.
Yeah, that's bad.
And that was one of the main reasons actually why we took Bills was Josh Allen maybe, but it's mostly because the Giants' defense is so bad, and that really did come.
And we saw Josh Allen take advantage of bad defenses last year, so. So let's try to get through. We got Seahawks Steelers, my favorite play of the week by the time Sunday morning came about. Like I said, posted on Twitter. Dave Essler agreed. 6-0. So, this was just a typical square sharp. Man, I'm going to go with the Steelers because they're going to rebound, because they always rebound, especially after a bad loss. This is Steelers how they play.
And at home.
And they're at home. And, Seattle had a close victory. They got to travel. It's an early game. Like all the typical, but what about the game? What about the teams? What about the players? What about the coach-ups? What about the matchups? Well, no, it's more about because when you're traveling and you see if the plane is in the air and it lands, and then if the time difference, and I'm going to go with Steelers. Like this is square sharp logic 101.
Yeah.
And yes, it may be profitable over a long sample size. If you do this for 10 years and you're at 57% return on your picks, great. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is hit 65%. If we can be in position to potentially hit 68, 69%. So you're not going to do that by having square sharp logic with the majority of your picks. So that's why we actually pulled ourselves off the Steelers, because we have the same square sharp logic. We get it. And we go, you know what? Let's reconsider this. And we did. And we actually put Seattle in the Circa contest, and we bet them, and we put them in our sports folio. So, all is gravy on this train.
Yeah, and then it was definitely Seahawks from start to finish, basically. There was a little bit of iffiness in the beginning. I was getting a little bit worried because the offensive line for the Seahawks was breaking down. Russell Wilson was getting under a lot of pressure and time to throw. He was getting sacked. He was actually sacked 4 times. But they started to find a little bit of a groove, tied the game 7-7. And then really too, Big Ben got hurt. He hurt his elbow. It's unclear what's going on with it, but he didn't come back. But actually Mason Rudolph came in. He was 12-19 for 112 yards, quarterback rating of 92.5. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He actually didn't play. He was very serviceable as a backup. So I don't think that the Seahawks won this game or covered this game just because Big Ben went out, because Big Ben wasn't playing that well to begin with.
I'm curious because I actually wonder if this is going to be an upgrade. And hear me out real quick, because this is going to be a hot take. Most people won't bring this up. Is Big Ben has struggled as of late, and you've noticed over his career the last couple years, he goes in and out of
he'll
throw 6 touchdowns, then he'll throw 3 interceptions the next game. So why is that? I mean, to me, it's psychological, right? He's not always committed, right? And I think now that he's lost Le'Veon, now that he's lost Antonio, now that he's never vibed with Mike Tomlin, and I think the writing's on the wall. I think he's ready to hang up the cleats, call it a day, and say, guys, I'm done, man. Because remember, he talked about it 2-3 years ago now. He almost quit straight up. So I think I want to rewatch the tape, but based on the stat line, he was playing like trash. He gets hurt. Here comes Mason Rudolph. go right down the field, get a touchdown. He plays solid, especially for coming in kind of, blinded. So I actually think this might be an upgrade, especially in the short term, because it rejuvenates the team. It's young, it's exciting. He's got a rapport with number 2 receiver, DeAndre Washington, is that his name? So yeah, just as a hot take, I'm curious to see next week's line, maybe the next 2 to 3 weeks. This might be an uptick for the Steelers. So just putting that in the universe.
Yeah. Also worth noting too, James Conner also got injured and left the game and didn't return. So
good to know.
Definitely banged up.
All right, Colts Titans.
So
we touched.
Actually, one last point I wanted to make about the Seahawks Steelers too was one of the reasons why we slid the Seahawks in amongst all the other reasons we already talked about was the fact that also at 4, Russell Wilson, top 5 quarterback probably in the league. The Seahawks, whether they're at home or on the road, team just doesn't get crushed. They don't get blown out. They always play competitive.
Russell Wilson.
So if they're always going to be competitive, then 4 sounds really juicy. Because maybe you're down 11 and you get a back score touchdown and you push. Or you're down 10, you get a backdoor touchdown and you cover. Or it's just a close game.
And the difference is we had the same logic last year. I think we actually picked Seattle on the road in Chicago and they did not cover. But the difference between that scenario and this scenario is Seattle, I think, is a little better on offense this year, and Chicago last year is way better on defense than Pittsburgh this year. So circumstantially, they're totally different games. Seattle's a little better. Chicago was a little better. So why is the line the same essentially? Because I think it might have been -5 Chicago or something. But just putting some context as to why we came around like Seattle, so much so, posted on Twitter, made it part of our sportfolio, and hammered it home in Circa. So,
and also Russell Wilson also has a big-bodied wide receiver for the first time, maybe ever, DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Three catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown.
And Tyler Lockett,
30-yard touchdown.
Tyler Lockett might be the best kept secret in the NFL. Moving on real quick, let's see if we can get to Colts Titans. We touched on this. I don't think we talk much more about it. Mariota kind of sucks. Not sure.
Yeah, I mean the Titans were up 17-13. They were covering for a little bit part of the game, but they were losing 7-0, then they were losing 13-7. So they were covering for a very small portion of the game. Colts was definitely the right side. Titans was the wrong side. It was a flat out loser. It was a bad pick. I didn't watch too much of this game, so this is something I'll have to definitely. I don't have too many comments about this,
and we should have known the writing was on the wall. So if you look last week, if we did a little more due diligence, which we should have and we will continuing moving forward, is the Titans versus the Browns. Browns are playing like trash. I mean, they have 500 penalties, and the Titans were only up 13-6. I think late in the third quarter. I mean,
that's true.
Then the wheels came off and it just spiraled out of control. Everyone wants to think, oh, Browns got destroyed. I mean, they didn't. They didn't play well.
Yeah, they didn't.
But those teams were fairly evenly matched. It's why we like the +5.5 because we thought that they were basically the same kind of team. So the fact that then we're going to lay 3 points in a division game with a team that we think the market's way actually not evaluating properly, which is why we took the Colts in week 1, is really just disappointing because I think we actually do fundamentally know better. We're actually high on the Colts. And look at Brissett, 2 winning drives late in the fourth quarter.
Sure.
I mean, and had he got the ball back in overtime versus the Chargers, I mean, I think he probably closes it out there too.
Or if he would have gotten the ball first.
Yeah, exactly. And so, Brissett's a very confident quarterback, and I don't think...
And he's got the weapons.
And remember, the Colts gave him the money because they go, look, we're going to get a good deal with this guy who's probably at least top 20 QB right now, could be top 15, maybe top 12 if we groom him right on a solid team with a good offensive line. They're like, why are we going to waste the talent we have right now? Let's greenlight it. Let's win this division. Let's go. And right now, I think the Colts are the front runner. It's not going to be sexy to say.
And the thing is about the Titans pick too is, the writing was on the wall come Saturday afternoon when we learned what the top picks were in the Super Contest. Because again, I want to reiterate, it was a very strong impetus for us to choose the Titans was because we thought we were being smart. We thought we were being clever actually by picking the Titans, that nobody else was going to pick the Titans. No one was considering the Titans. The Titans was going to be this 25th most popular pick. that everyone was going to be taking the Colts, recognizing that Brissett had a good game. You're getting the +3. That there's this strong narrative that the Colts always dominate the Titans, although that was mostly with luck, and so maybe that narrative was going to be overrated. That the Titans defense did play really strong versus the Browns. The Titans are at home. We did a little bit of research. We saw the Titans usually when they do win, especially the last couple of years, like they usually win like 2-3 games in a row and then lose 2-3 games in a row.
Confirmation bias.
It was all for a wash.
Yeah.
It was confirmation bias. It was all a wash.
Which is why
we were trying to find a bunch of stats to help support this pick to try to be clever. And when it wasn't at all.
Well, and this is why
if I knew the Titans were going to be a top 5 pick, I'd be like, hell no.
Well, and this is why I think it's so important, especially for contests like the super contest like type stuff. Again, for betting purposes, there's all kinds of strategies you could make money doing. But for being sharp to like really hit a ton of games and be good at it, you can't have a thesis and then go looking for stats to justify that thesis. This is actually how the last 2 weeks, I liked Atlanta week 1. I liked Pittsburgh week 2. We flipped on both and actually put the inverse as our picks. How did we do that? How do you completely flip and then end up on the right side, demonstrably so? You do it by actively looking for how am I wrong?
Challenging yourself.
How am I wrong about the Titans? And we didn't do a good enough job this week on that game. But, like we said, it's a good reminder. It's good that it happened early because I think it'll keep us more disciplined moving forward. So speaking of forward, let's hit up real quick Chiefs Raiders. Raiders looking good, up 10-0 from the stat line I saw. Chiefs blew them away in the second half. Raiders couldn't score again. Is Chiefs defense on the up and up? What's going on, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, Derek Carr, the Raiders moved the ball. They moved the ball in the first drive, went up 10-0. They moved the ball later on as well, but, Derek Carr threw 2 really bad interceptions, really kind of crippled some drives that otherwise would have scored points. The Chiefs probably could have scored even more than 28. In fact, the Raiders held the Chiefs, you look at the stat line, scoreless in the first quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter.
Oh, you're
the
right.
Chiefs only scored 28 in the second quarter. It was just touchdown. And it was basically all Mahomes bombs right over the top, one-on-one, just easy slam dunk touchdowns.
So good.
DeMarcus Robinson, 6 catches, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. So, DeMarcus Robinson was this week's Sammy Watkins. Travis Kelce, another 7 catch, 107 yard, another touchdown. Mecole Hardman also looks great. He had a long touchdown, and he had another long touchdown, actually, that was actually called back. Mahomes, another 450 yards, 4 touchdowns, 130, 1.2 quarterback
and essentially,
so I would say just a great game.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm disappointed in us taking the Raiders at +7 was because the Raiders were -6.5 in Circa, and we looked at that and said, like, no. That is not even in our top 5, much less our top 7 or even our top 10. We never even talked about it for Circa.
That's a good point.
There were so many other competitive choices. Yet nonetheless, we put it in SuperContest because we're getting that extra half point.
And
so that leaves us no wiggle room.
That's great. And that's great that you're pointing that out because that's one of the key lessons that we learned last year. We kind of forgot this week, but we're going to apply it every week moving forward. Is if you look at a line in regards to the Super Contest, if you don't like it at a half point more or a half point less, demonstrably so, like you really hate it, like we did the Chiefs -6.5, we're like, oh, no, gross, we can't take that, but we'll take +7? It's like, granted, we know 7's a key number, but if it's that drastic of a shift, maybe you just lay off that game, or maybe you reconsider how you're looking at it.
A half point, I don't care if it's a key number. If there's a half point shift and you go from love to hate, then there's no half point worth that.
Yeah. Whereas look at let's take an example. Look at Steelers -4 to -3.5. Are you thrown off? Not really. Like, it doesn't really affect me whether I like them or don't like them or whatever. Either Russell Wilson's going to play well and cover.
That was one of the things with the Vikings that we actually did apply this strategy in the Vikings, and we kept on the Vikings. We said, oh, do we like the Vikings like much more at 3.5? No, we like them at 3. Do you hate them at plus 2.5? No, we still like them at 2.5.
And that would
because we thought the Vikings could win straight up.
And like we said, they probably could have and should have.
Yeah,
so
they could have.
Let's hit up Bears Broncos. Obviously, we talked about this already. I don't think we need to go too deep into it.
Yeah, I mean, I downgrade the Bears off this game. The defense is vulnerable. I mean, the Broncos offense is just questionable. But when it comes to push comes to shove, they were able to move the ball on the Bears defense. So when the Bears defense's backs were against the wall, they couldn't make the stops.
And remember, we saw this last year. This Bears, especially on their road. Remember, they went road Dolphins. They went on the road.
Road Cardinals.
Cardinals. So this is the Bears, especially with Trubisky right now, and everyone has figured Nagy out. Look at last year's last 5 games. So if the Bears aren't at home, I don't think it's a play you can really comfortably consider, unless it's against a bad team with
There's actually a really great there's a really great video by Brett Coleman who does these breakdowns of film on YouTube. I definitely encourage you guys to check him out. He does a video on Trubisky, and he makes this great argument, and it came to fruition again today, which is Trubisky sucks most of the time when it doesn't matter. But when it does matter, when it comes down to you need a drive to lead you down for this critical 30 yards or something, then that's when he actually, now it's not that he's dominant, but that's when he actually plays his best. He all of a sudden, because again, for this whole game, he played terrible. He was completely incompetent. But then, he throws a couple key passes on the final drive. He was helped out with 1 penalty. But again, he makes those key throws when they really, really matter and sets them up. This is not a bull argument for Trubisky, but it's just a quandary of Mitchell Trubisky. Because again, this was just another bad game. And the handicap on the entire Bears team comes down to, is Trubisky going to put them in a position to lose?
Fair.
Or can he just manage the game? Because again, the Bears, I'm not saying the Bears defense is bad. The Bears defense is still an elite defense, but I downgrade this team off this game. I mean, again, they looked bad versus the Packers, bad versus the Broncos. And again, I'm a Bears fan, so maybe again, I'm definitely on tilt on this game.
Yeah.
So
I hate it, and I'm not. I've been off Trubisky since he got drafted. I thought he was a terrible pick, and obviously Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes would agree. So I think he's got a little bit of, I don't know what you call it, Napoleon complex. I know he comes through in the clutch, but it's only because he sucked so bad beforehand. He doesn't know. I don't know, It's not worth laboring much more. I think Trubisky's not very good and won't be in the NFL much longer, personally. Saints Rams. Obviously, Drew Brees got hurt. Is there an update on how long that might last? Because that's going to change a lot.
No, I guess Brees doesn't even know. I think the kind of the headlines coming out of the locker room is that there's concern that it could be serious.
Oh man!
So whatever that means, it seems like he's definitely going to miss at least a couple of weeks. It seems if not the season, so at least a couple of weeks, maybe the season. So Teddy Bridgewater came in. I mean, he played again. He couldn't put him in a position to really score points.
Yeah,
he's 17 of 30 for 160 yards. He was sacked twice.
He's a game manager. I mean, he's a game manager. So I think, for all intents and purposes, if you're not giving the ball to Kamara a ton, this team's not going to go very far offensively.
And once Brees was gone, then the team was not competitive.
No.
And it was just basically Rams from there on out. The one thing I would say is Goff, I mean, he still doesn't – I mean, he made a few plays here and there, but, I mean, he's showing vulnerability, kind of like that rookie year vulnerability, that end of last year vulnerability. Man, when you put pressure on him, he gets super shaky.
Yeah,
and
he crumbles.
I don't know if this team's going to be good enough to really make it all the way to the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl again.
Well, my Super Bowl Cowboys props looking pretty good.
That does look strong.
Which did we touch on that? So let's. I don't know actually. Did we? Cowboys Redskins.
I think we actually did it. We did skip that one. I just quickly, what I would say about that game was, Washington came out, they scored 7-0. The Cowboys won 31-21. They covered the 5 points, the 5-point spread, and also the 6-point closing spread. This was Cowboys. I mean, I got a little nervous when the Redskins jumped out 7-0 very early on in the game. The Cowboys defense just didn't look ready to start this game. And hey, when you're on the road, it's a division game that can happen. And they looked slow. They were leaving wide receivers wide open. The thing is, I upgrade the Redskins off this game. I mean, Keenum continues to look strong.
And it's interesting how this team
defense,
plays
the
well
defense
early.
Continues to look good. Yeah, exactly. And I think they just need to learn to close it a little bit. The other thing is they're playing two great teams. The first 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, probably the two best teams in the NFC by season's end, if they're healthy. Which actually, the Redskins remind me of for this time last year. They remind me of Oakland in that Oakland, if you remember last year and this year so far, they start off games actually really well. Like, generally speaking, their game plans, they know what they want to do. They do it proficiently. They get points. They are up. And then kind of reality sets in and they're just not that talented. And they just can't keep up with teams that kind of put it together. So if you want to kind of last year comparison, Redskins might be a great team to bet first halves, to kind of,
True.
Just kind of putting that out there. And
I think there's going to be a lot of value on the Redskins in general because, again, they're 0-2 now. They lost by 10 points this time. They didn't cover this time. So I think there's definitely going to be value on them. This team doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Their defense is strong, and their offense is proving capable.
Yeah. I mean, right now, because of their injuries, if I had to choose a team in this division that sucked, it would be the Giants.
Yes.
Until Daniel Jones gets up there and their defense finds players, at least. And then
now going into this last game to close out this whole recap is Eagles Falcons. So I didn't watch this full game, but so Alshon Jeffrey was knocked out of the game. Deshaun Jackson was knocked out of the game. Aguilar was knocked out for a few series. Dallas Goedert was knocked out of the game. So they were left with almost nobody at wide receiver. They had the rookie J.J. Arcega, Whiteside, who just clearly in this game has demonstrated that he does not have a chemistry with Wentz. Wentz looks also just gimpy, a little bit off. He seemed to be throwing
and this is why we liked
all wide receivers. I got a second behind.
And this is why we liked the Redskins last week to cover. And granted, they kind of backdoor covered, but they were up 21-7 to start. Not trusting Wentz is really gonna be fully in rhythm to start the season. And obviously, I think this game is another example of him. You're gonna have to feel it out because he may or may not be on a given week. But I think it's gonna take probably to their bye week for him to really kind of be situated. Obviously, you need some healthy receivers around him. And they're running.
And I don't think Wentz is right because he actually came out of this game and McCown came in and led a drive for maybe 6-7 plays in a row while Wentz was getting checked out in the tent.
Interesting.
So he got knocked in his ribs, he got knocked in his head, so they were checking him for a concussion. But I think his ribs, they were already kind of messed up last year, and it caused him to miss some games. And so he got knocked in the ribs again. I mean, he just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, he's injury prone. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out the rest of the season. This is why I'm on the Cowboys and not the Eagles for the season. And now, for what everyone's been waiting for, let's get to Week 3 NFL opening lines, our first impressions. Brett, lead us off, and let's not labor too long on each game. Let's just try to get our first impression and see where we land.
Yeah. So Thursday night game, Titans at Jags.
Thursday night games. Well, we're 2-0 in Thursday night games, so I'm liking that. Unfortunately, we don't think it's
Thursday night games too. 2 for 2, looking like a shit show.
Yeah, that's fair too. So Titans will be favored. Probably, you said it's Jags at Titans.
Titans at Jags.
Oh, Titans at Jags. Interesting.
With Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. I mean, actually, it's probably a pick 'em. I'm going to say, no, Titans -1.
Titans -2.
-2. Okay, I can see that.
I mean, yeah, division game on Thursday. And again, for the Super Contest and Circa, I mean, you got to really love the Thursday game to put it in, because you have to put in your selections basically on Thursday morning. So you have to miss the all day Thursday and all day Friday of doing further analysis. Which we loved the Bucks last week. Turns out, since we went 2-3, we probably should have thought a little bit more about maybe putting the Bucks in. But okay, so next game. So I don't think we have a strong lean at this point.
No.
Okay, so Broncos at Packers.
I mean, you can't trust the Broncos. Packers at home, probably -6.5.
Yeah, no, you're close. But it's -8.
-8. Man, they love those 8s. That's a tough number. I want to think more about that. But okay, next.
I mean, I would say I probably lean. I don't know. I don't know. Have much thoughts on this one. All right, so next one, Ravens at Chiefs.
Chiefs are probably I would put them at -6.5. They're probably -4.5.
-7.
-7. Okay.
And I think 7 makes sense, because like if you're saying -4, you're saying that the Chiefs are only 1 point better than the Ravens. Like even the market would think that.
Yeah.
And I mean, the market definitely thinks the market's overly high on the Ravens, but I guess I'm a little bit surprised with the 7 too, because I think it was 7 when it was the Ravens at Chiefs last year.
Yeah, and the Ravens
near
covered,
the end of
I
the
think.
season.
Didn't they Ravens cover?
Yeah, well, we took the Ravens.
Yeah, because of the defense is so bad. That's why I'm curious to see this.
Defense, yeah.
See this Oakland game, because, and I don't know. I mean, because remember, the Chiefs changed their defense. They're better at the pass, and I think you saw that versus the Raiders. They started getting some picks, getting some pressure. But the Ravens' strength is running the ball. So I don't know. We'll see how that kind of plays out.
If this comes down to a 6.5, I think I like Chiefs.
Yeah, I could see that.
But again, I am on tilt too, because I don't like I'm really strongly against the Ravens. We have Ravens under 8.5 features for the season. Granted, I mean, again, the Ravens have played the 2 worst teams in the NFL. So
So what have they proven? Nothing. So next,
they're overrated for sure. All right, Bengals at Bills.
Oh, man, I don't want to say it. So Bills are going to be -3.
Bills -5.
Yeah. I
mean, that makes sense too, because I mean, again, like the Bills are now 2-0. Bengals just got crushed. The market's going to overreact.
Allen is not Garoppolo, and so
I would lean Bengals.
I definitely lean the Bengals. But then again,
all right, Raiders.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
No, I got nothing.
Okay. Raiders at Vikings.
Vikings -4.
Wow, -7.5.
Oh, that hurts, because I want to like the Vikings, and the market knows that.
Yeah.
But again, it's so disappointing. Like I want to see what happened to the Raiders. I want to see it for my own eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I would say at 7.5, I'd probably lean.
But then again, I mean, they were playing the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are, we think, one of the best teams in the NFL. So, maybe losing.
And they were up to 10-0. Yeah. So I would probably lean Raiders 7.5.
Yeah, I'd consider it.
This one definitely requires almost no time. Dolphins at Cowboys. Sure, you might as well just guess what it's going to be.
-17.
-20.5.
One thing I love is it keeps getting bigger. Who the Dolphins play in week 4? That's what I want to know.
No, I mean, I'm curious what the line's going to be. Dolphins at Patriots.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
It's probably going to approach Broncos Jags.
This is actually
record from 20.
This is fun. Like, this is fun to see. If they lose, all right. So if they lose 41-3, this line's got to keep going. You know what I mean? Like they can't just like the books can't afford, especially after these first 2 weeks.
I don't know. I mean, it's going to be the square / sharps. They're the only ones betting Dolphins.
Oh, I don't think sharps are going to do it.
We've seen it before with the Browns. You know, when they went 0-16, sharps were betting Browns every week.
They lost,
and the Browns always. Now, granted, the Browns weren't even this bad because
they were competitive.
20 points.
They should have won 3 games. We know those. We know.
Yeah. No, but they were always like crappy enough to blow the game all the time.
Yeah, but that was all,
right.
But they were
that
close to the line.
Was at least competitive.
But that's what I'm saying is we're 20 points past, 30 points past the line. I mean, how many?
Man, the Dolphins so far have not even flirted with being competitive.
You know what I'm thinking?
In the first quarter.
I'm actually going to bet the Cowboys this week, and let me tell you why. You know, because it's easy to assume this is what people like to do. We like to pretend like we're Nostradamus. We like to go, you know what? I know it's going to happen before it happens. There has been literally nothing to suggest that the Dolphins can win a game or cover 34 points. So why would it start? Why would it start now? So like what I'm saying is I'm going to bet it till it doesn't happen, and then I'll reconsider my position. And we should have done that with the Patriots. So I'm going to jump on this week. I'll do a position on the Cowboys. Maybe I'll put them in a teaser too. I don't know, but just to play it out, see what happens. Yeah. So what's next?
All right, Giants at Bucks.
Bucks are probably -2. No, there'll be more. -4. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm surprised about this line.
What? Like 7?
So it's Bucks -6.5.
Jesus, give me Giants.
Yeah.
I mean, we love the Bucks at +7.
Giants are that common, especially if they could get a Sterling Shepard back or something.
And what's weird is the Giants have had 2 opening drive touchdowns in a row. So like their coaching and game planning is working. It's just everything.
Yeah, and Saquon Barkley looked good still.
Like, I mean, he's
it's just their defense really sucks. But I mean, okay, so Panthers at Cards.
Panthers will be favored maybe 2.5.
Yep, Panthers -2.5.
Nice, called that.
I'd say I definitely lean Cardinals here. I mean, Cardinals have flirted with getting close to a win. I think this is a good time to get a win.
I think you're falling in the trap. I think Carolina's gonna figure it out this week. I mean, they have the extra time to prepare.
They had 10 days earlier.
And I don't know. From what I've seen, they played bad, but it's Carolina bad. It is what it is at this point.
I mean, they're like a yard away from beating the Bucks. So
yeah, I mean, that was bad play call. I mean, they should.
The Panthers could be 2-0.
They should. I mean, they should have covered the Bucks game. Like they ever pushed. I mean, if they score that touchdown, so I guess I would have gone for 2. But
Texans at Chargers.
Chargers probably -3.
Chargers -3.5.
Yeah, I mean,
I like Chargers here.
I don't. I mean, I don't. It depends how banged up they are. This team is not good this year. I thought they were overrated last year. They kind of like lucked into some good spots, and they're kind of getting exposed this year. I think their defense is overrated, especially now with the injuries. And again, these QBs, like I know Brady's kind of the exception. Brady, Breeze, Roethlisberger, Flacco, Matt Ryan, like you got Patrick Mahomes now. You got Carson Wentz. You got Jared Goff. You got Kyler Murray. You got Baker Mayfield. Like, I don't know. It's hard for me to buy that these guys are going to be, solid QBs into their 50s. Like, at what point? Do they take it? Look, Adam Vinatieri, perfect example. He's going to retire tomorrow.
Is he?
Word on the street is that's my Adam Schefter hot take. Dude's going to retire tomorrow. Watch. Unless the Titans convince him otherwise. But I think in his mind he thinks he's washed up, and he is.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
okay.
Yeah. That's my take.
So next game, Bears at Redskins.
Well, Bears are favored, probably -5 5.
Well, this is already shifted off because this was one that I did take a peek at a look ahead. And before the Bears game, it was Bears -6 on the road versus the Redskins. I'd be like, give me Redskins. But now it's come down to -4. And even that is.
Yeah. I mean, you can't trust Trubisky. I think Bears could lose that straight up.
No, I could see Bears losing this straight up.
Especially on the road?
No doubt.
Why they had to go to Denver? Interesting.
Yeah, so 2 back-to-back road games.
It's a tough week. I think it's going to be a tough week. It's tough because there's a lot of big lines, so the teams you think you want, you need to find ways to basically ride underdogs, like the right underdog.
And again, there's going to be a few additional games out there, because what else do we got here? That there is no line.
Dude, I'm thinking SuperContest Cowboys. Fuck it. Take the easy money. But dude, two weeks in a row. I mean, Baltimore was the number 1 pick, but this week the Patriots were what, 21? No one picked the Patriots.
Oh yeah, no. Actually, the Dolphins were more popular than the Patriots.
That's an embarrassment. But see, again, that's sharp logic. That's square sharp. Oh, well, the big line. Like again.
So the other game floating.
Yeah.
What? So the other 2 games floating out there that there's no line for yet is Steelers at Niners and Saints at Seahawks and Rams at Browns. So those are some of the games there's no lines for. But so all the games that we walked through, and also there's Falcons at Colts.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a few. So there's no lines for any of these games yet. But
I actually think I like those games more than I like the slate we've already gone over.
Yeah, me
just
too.
Hearing the matchups.
Yeah. So granted, we'll see what the lines are, but if the Seahawks are like -3.5, that sounds attractive. If the Rams are -2, I think that sounds attractive. And then if Colts and Falcons, if the Colts are -3, I think that could be attractive.
I'm interested in the Steelers. I actually hope Roethlisberger doesn't play, because then we'll actually get a good line on this game. And I want to watch the tape, but my gut reaction is Mason Rudolph actually is going to play fairly decently. And if Connor's not hurt, interesting to see what.
Yeah, it seems like Big Ben probably, whatever's wrong with Big Ben, he's probably is going to miss the game because, he was on the sideline the whole time. There's something really wrong with his elbow. So we'll have to see. But so, yeah, that wraps up the recap of week 2 and the look ahead to week 3.
Nice.
So let's go 5-0 next week.
Let's do it. One way or another. Yep. Dolphins.
Thanks, guys.
Dolphins -20, +20.
Woo!
Thanks for tuning in, Carbonation. You can find us on Twitter, ZJ Alpha. That's me, Zach. You can find Brett, Non-Random Alpha, also on Twitter. We post aggressive plays, multi-sport aggressive plays in Discord, so when you sign up, you can see how we're faring there as well on top of our sportfolios. And we'll have more info coming throughout the week.